I think we talked about something yesterday that the listeners would also, um, it would be good for them to understand. If you could talk about um, alpha body, what that is to you, because I'm not sure everyone will understand, and it'd be good if they would, because it appears on the album a couple times.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, great. Well, the alpha body, first of all, is for me, it's an instrument. For first
Mm-hmm.
and foremost, the instrument is that it's my body that I'm playing on my body,
Right.
and it's more or less the alpha body. That's how I identify with my body or with the human body as the alpha body. The piece that it's on is called Urban Neon Jungle.
Yes.
So basically, the alpha body is my body that I'm playing on. This piece, the Urban Neon Jungle, that I was playing on my body, I was creating this body rhythm, which is supposed to be this organic state, and it was supposed to create this presence for Dr. King within the score that's going on. And I played it with this kind of a somewhat stumbling feel. It's harder than it sounds. You know, you might think that, well, it's easy to just not play steady time and just, mess up the time. But it wasn't just messing up the time. It had to have a time. There was a time going through this, and that it wasn't just simply, random. There had to be a time going through this. It was a stumbling, but there was a time, a definite time going through this. I explained that all in the liner notes, which actually I just want to say this, that I do explain all these tracks. Avery commented to me when he first saw the liner notes that my project was the first project he thinks that ever came with an instruction manual, you know. But I felt that it needed that. So I explained all these pieces so that you can understand exactly what's going on in them and what they're about and how they relate to Urban Elixir and how they create the score around Urban Elixir. But so as I was saying though, this piece had a somewhat stumblingness to it to portray Dr. King's
Mm-hmm.
struggles. At the same time, I didn't want it to sound like a body rhythm that just a basic rhythm, a pattern that was done in the studio. I wanted it to feel like this organic experience. So that's why it had to have this stumbling to it to create that feeling of someone stumbling. But yet, when you stumble, like when you stumble, if you're walking down the street and you trip on a crack in the sidewalk, you don't necessarily fall down. You might compose yourself through the stumble and you get back into your stride, but you keep the stride going. And so that's what I was trying to do here. Keep this, like I said, it had to have a natural flow to it. It did have a time. There was a rhythm itself to it. It had a time feel to it.
Right. You
Um,
did talk about yesterday about keeping the life in it,
yeah,
as it were.
yes. The funny part about this that I conveyed to you yesterday, Owen, this piece, I wanted to create this echo for it. It sound like
Mm-hmm.
somebody walking down a corridor or a stairwell.
Yeah, you went to great lengths for this.
Yes, yes, yes. So I was with my sound engineer, James, and
Hello, James.
yeah, hey baby, we were talking about, and I explained what I wanted for this, and he said, "Well, I don't really have anything here, like any kind of a Foley room for you or anything where you can do this." And he said, "The only thing I have is the restroom." And I said, "Okay." And he looked at me, "Are you serious?" Okay. He says, "Well, now you go in there. I'm not going to see you from the booth. There's no window to the restroom." He says, we don't have windows in the restrooms." And so that's okay. I'll go in there. I'll count to 10. Maybe I'll wait a little bit longer to make sure you're back and you have the tape rolling. And then I'll start. And so I'm counting, 10 Mississippi, and then I counted another 5 Mississippi, and then I started this rhythm. And the restroom had this great echo to it. It really did. I don't want to make a practice of it. I do some of my best work in the restroom. uh, but that's how it came to be, and that's what the whole alpha body is. Me playing on my body and stomping my feet and getting this echo to create this feeling of a corridor, somebody walking down an empty corridor or an empty stairwell. I'm sure you've both walked down empty corridors and you can hear your feet from one end to the other.
Right, right.
And that's what I was trying to create with this. Everything I've done in this project it means something. I just want to point that out, that everything in this project, it means something beyond the esoteric nature of whatever it's called or whatever it's stated as being. It's beyond that esoteric word.
Mm-hmm.
So I would let everyone know that there is something to everything that's being stated within this context of this piece, that it means something.
Which brings us back to the idea of this being in sentence structure, I think, right?
Yes. That's why I did that, the whole thing with sentence structure. I could get into the particulars of how it's done, but I did want to share kind of an interesting story about the difficulties that I had with this project when I was going looking for a studio. Again, I'm not sure if Jaimie was on when I spoke about this. I think you were, weren't you, Jaimie, when I spoke about? Yes, you were.
Yeah.
When I spoke about the sound, the studio owner having voiced some concerns when he heard a specific segment of the project. Let me first preface that there were 3 white musicians on this project and 3 black musicians on this project, and then me. The piano player, who was one of the white musicians, he didn't put 2 and 2 together that it was called Black in My Own Way. He thought, all he knew was, all he knew was it was called, the piece he was working on was called Urban Elixir. And so as far as he's concerned, it's Urban Elixir, okay. Whatever that means, as far as he was concerned, that didn't mean anything to him, so it didn't bother him. But when I sent all these releases out to everyone for them to sign their work over to me, they have to release their work that they performed this project, but they have to release it to me. So I sent it out. One of the things on there is stated, and how do you want your name to appear on the project? So he calls me up. He says, Dante, I didn't know this is called Black in My Own Way. I don't want people thinking that I'm saying I'm black. So I said to him, do you know any black people besides the people you crossed paths with? And he says, no, I've never sat down before and spoken to anyone like that. I don't have any black friends. And I said, okay. I just wanted to understand why you're so concerned, because, again, nobody else is showing concern here. None of the black folks here, we're not looking at you and saying you're black. You're not saying you're black. You're performing on this project. But that's beside the point. I said, so how do you want to appear? I want to be called Mr. White Keys. That's my handle online. I want to be called Mr. White Keys. And I thought, oh, God, this is perfect. Oh, my God. Mr. White Keys. Yes, I just Black in My Own Way featuring Mr. White Keys. Okay, I'm there. You don't have to ask me twice. My biggest concern was he was going to call up and say, you know what? I spoke to somebody and they convinced me it's not that big a deal, and you guys don't have any problem with me. So, okay, call me by my name. That was my concern. Please don't change your mind. Please, Let me at least get the album to press before you change your mind. Then I can say, well, it's too late now. It's already in print. But he didn't change his mind. He was just scared to death about somebody thinking that he was saying he was black in his own way. It just shows it means different things to different people. And that includes not understanding what it's saying at all, and the confusion of it. I didn't really think anybody was going to be confused. I thought it was kind of matter of fact. It simply stated, black in my own way. But it never occurred to me that a white person might think, how am I black in my own way? I'm not black. But apparently that was an issue that needed to be addressed. That was just another one of the incidences about this project, that it was difficult in some senses to get a place to do this project in, because the place had to be big enough to fit 7 musicians in there at one time in a live room, and they had to be able to see each other, and there had to be enough room so that I could isolate certain things. Like, for example, all the basses in this project, except the acoustic bass, of course, are not mic'd. There was very little miking in the room. Everything was heard through headphones, because I didn't want any kind of crosstalk, bleeding over from one channel to another. Mm-hmm. So the electric basses are plugged right into the board. And, of course, Avery's going right into the board. The only things that were mic'd that weren't into the board was piano, the drums, of course. Yeah. And because no one knows where I'm going with this. and the bass, the acoustic bass. And so we built this partition, this plexiglass partition around the acoustic bass so that, he could see us, but he was sheltered and shielded from the drums, which had to be near him in proximity because, we had to see each other. And as much as we tried to shield it, it still bled over. Kenwood is, I should say, he has a hearing impairment. He wears a hearing aid. So he doesn't always hear how loud he sounds. And even with the partition, when I went to mix this, he still bled over into the bassist microphone. And that's why I'd say James is brilliant. He got this thing and he juggled it back and forth using the Pro Tools, and he got it done. And I'm just really grateful that he got that part out of it. So that was another thing about how this whole thing was basically the challenges of recording this thing and having to have a room that was big enough. And even then, as you can see, there were still issues to deal with. But it had to be that way, that everyone had to be in the room. I was emphatic about that. And I was also emphatic that everyone read the script because, if you don't read that script, then you're not going to know what you're playing. And if you don't know what you're playing, then you're not playing from content. Sentence structure, a lot of people, when I talk to them about it, one of the things that they think is, oh, it's a jam session. No, it's not a jam session. There's a conversation going on, and it's not just random notes and just, playing whatever machinations might be coming out of your mind. It's not just that. It has to come from content. It's not just gibberish. You don't have to always be playing. There are pauses in conversations, as if, as you see right now, you're not speaking, I am. There are pauses, and you don't have to always play, but when you do play, it has to come from content. You have to be saying something. You have to be feeling something and be stating something within the context of the story.
It's tricky because I think people expect it to have the organicness of improv, but it is actually secretly a very deliberate way of playing music.
Yes, it is. It's actually what I like to call it as structural reflection. There's no structure to this. I mean, the musicians, I created sentence structure, which I told them what sentence structure is supposed to be, and I left it up to them to, on their own terms, create it. And so, yes, it is structure, but it's not really structure. It's reflecting structure. It's kind of like you put water in a glass, right? Water becomes the glass, but it's only reflecting the structure. But if you take that water and you put that water in a pond now, per se, it can reflect the glass. It can reflect everything around it. But
it takes the shape of its container.
Right. It takes the shape of its container, but if you take it out of its container and you put it in a pond now, it can reflect everything, but it's not actually becoming structure anymore. It's structure when it's in that glass. It can take the shape, or it can take on its own identity. You put water in a glass, it takes the shape of the glass, but if you put a lid on that glass, it can never take the shape of that lid. But if you take it away from the glass and you put it outside of the glass, now it can reflect the glass and the lid. It can become everything that it sees. So that's what sentence structure is. It's reflecting it, but yet becoming all that it sees, all that it is, all that you are, whoever's speaking in that language. There's a lot more going on there than just notes being randomly shouted out at you.
Because it's not random.
No, it's not at all. But it's randomly conceived, but not randomly expressed. It's expressed with deliberateness, and there was eye contact being made the whole time. Everyone was very relaxed, and at times even just kind of smiling at each other because as I said, we kind of felt somebody's there with us, and we're all smiling the whole time. It was just such a happy experience. It was just so much fun to do. Like I said, there was just something in the room with us besides the seven of us. All the musicians have been asking me to perform at different places with them, and my friend Mark, who's one of the bass players on this project, he plays double bass. He wanted me to perform this. His wife teaches at the University of Texas, and wanted me to perform this at their school. And I emphatically said no, because I felt like the whole point of what we did here was spontaneous. And to go moment, yeah. Right. The whole point, I'd made you guys not rehearse because I didn't want this to be this rehearsed preset thing. And if we go and do this now, because we have a reference point now of an album that's been made, no matter what you say, you're going to try and recreate what has been done. And it was done perfect the first time, and you can't capture that again. Lightning in a bottle, you know what I mean? So I said, no, absolutely not. I won't do this. There is so much to talk about this project, but
Right. We'd love to spend more time on it.
I think I'd like to maybe state what the musical mission statement of this project is, if you're interested in that.
Please do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the things that I had hoped Urban Elixir would accomplish is the idea that, stating a message, without loud ranting expletives, and shock therapy tactics, and painting these grim urban realities, these images. I watched this video, and they showed this black youth being beaten by police and ravaged. I don't think that is constructive. It's not getting us where we want to go. It's not what we want to see. It's certainly not what we want to experience. And it's not helping anyone. My hope is that maybe Black a Mile Away will show that an intelligent approach will always, start with the idea that there is a solution and build on it from there. Not create the idea that we are in this harsh, grim reality and there's no way out. I think that an intelligent approach has got to start with the idea of there is a solution. It starts with the solution. The solution has to be the motif of the whole thing that you build around. And then you go from there. Because if you start out with expletives and all that, you paint yourself into a corner and there's no way out. There's no way out of that. But if you start out with a positive image and also ending with hope, and that's what I think I did with Black a Mile Away. At the end, Urban Elixir, it has a common motif that pulls itself together. And in the end, that yes, we do have something we can do. There is an answer and there is a solution, and it isn't hopeless. And that's what I was trying to get across with my statement. That was the most important thing. If nothing else, I hope that young people, black and white and alike, come across realizing that there is an answer. Black people realizing that we have opportunities and we have alternatives and we have things that we can do. And black people are not the enemy, for those that look at it that way. And it's not a threat to anything, And just that it will show people that we are all united by a common thread of humanity, that runs through all of us. We have to find that common thread through us all that binds us together. We're more than this. That's the whole thing that I hope comes from this, if nothing else does.
I think, I agree. I think that's an excellent note to end it on. Thank you, Dante. Thank you to everyone for listening. Please go take a look at Black in My Own Way. Support this work that resonates with everybody because it will touch you in some way. And be well.
Thank you so much for your time and your energy and your insight, and for speaking to us about this project. And I learned so much while talking to you. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
Listen to the full composition on YouTube or visit www.HarpSpaceHappening.com for streaming links and a free download of liner notes for the Black in My Own Way album by the DX Experiment. Thanks to Dante Xavier, and we look forward to hearing more from him about his upcoming projects.